Keanu Reeves listened intently, his jaw tightening with each word Max uttered. The soft-spoken actor, known for his calm demeanor and generosity, felt a quiet fury ignite within him, a fire that rarely surfaced but burned fiercely when it did. Andy, sensing the shift in Keanu's mood, pressed closer, his soft whimper grounding the moment. Max continued, his voice trembling. "They said they'd come back tomorrow. If I don't have the money, I don't know what they'll do to Button." Keanu's hand rested briefly on Max's shoulder, a steadying gesture. "Don't worry, Max," he said, his tone resolute. "We'll get Button back." The determination in Keanu's voice was unyielding, and Max looked at him with a flicker of hope. "But Keanu, these guys, they're dangerous. You shouldn't get involved." Keanu stood, his dark eyes scanning the alcove. Dangerous or not, no one should be terrorized for trying to survive. Keanu's quiet conviction wasn't just words, it was a promise. With Andy at his side, he ventured deeper into the subway station, following the faint trail of clues Max had provided. The thugs often lingered near the abandoned platform at the far end of the station, a place most commuters avoided after dark. As Keanu approached, he spotted them, a group of 4 men lounging around a pile of scavenged belongings. Their laughter echoed through the empty platform, but it stopped abruptly when they noticed him. One of them, a burly man with a shaved head, sneered. "You lost, old man?" Keanu tilted his head slightly, his unassuming stance masking a lifetime of discipline and training. "I'm here for the chihuahua you stole," he said calmly. The men exchanged amused glances before breaking into laughter. "Oh, you've got guts," the leader mocked, stepping forward. "But guts won't get you far here." Keanu's expression didn't waver. "Give her back, and we'll walk away. No one needs to get hurt." The thugs weren't interested in negotiation. "You've got a death wish, don't you?" Another one jeered, pulling a knife from his belt. What followed could only be described as a symphony of precision. Keanu moved with a fluid grace that belied his unassuming appearance. Years of martial arts training and stunt choreography turned the fight into a choreographed masterpiece. The first thug lunged, his knife slicing through the air, but Keanu sidestepped effortlessly, disarming him with a single motion and sending him sprawling to the ground. The others rushed in, but their strength was no match for Keanu's technique. Within moments, the chaos subsided, leaving the men groaning on the ground. Andy barked sharply, his small but fierce presence adding an exclamation point to the scene. Keanu knelt beside the leader, who was clutching his arm in pain. "Where's the dog?" he demanded, his voice low and commanding. The thug gestured toward a crate hidden behind a stack of broken furniture. Keanu found Button trembling inside, her tiny frame shaking but unharmed. He gently scooped her up, cradling the small dog in his arms. Returning to Max's tent, Keanu handed Button over. The reunion was heartwarming. Button wagged her tail furiously, licking Max's tear-streaked face as he hugged her tightly. "I don't know how to thank you," Max whispered, his voice breaking. Keanu simply smiled, giving Andy a reassuring pat. "Take care of each other," he said softly before disappearing back into the shadows of the subway station. As the first light of dawn crept into the city, Keanu and Andy continued their walk, the world none the wiser about the quiet heroism that had unfolded beneath its bustling streets. For Keanu Reeves, the night wasn't about being a star, it was about being human. "Button tried to protect me," Max continued, his voice breaking. "She bit one of them when they started roughing me up, and then they went crazy. One of them kicked her hard. I tried to grab her, but they had a bat." Max's voice faltered, his fingers brushing the bruise on his temple. "When I woke up, I was back in my tent, but Button, she was gone." Keanu's jaw tightened as he listened, his hand resting reassuringly on Max's shoulder. Andy, sensing the gravity of the moment, sat quietly by his side. "I'm so sorry, Max," Keanu said softly, genuine anguish in his voice. "Have you heard anything about her since?" Max shook his head, despair etched into his features. "No. If she was alive, someone would have told me. Those guys, they don't show mercy." Keanu's mind raced as he processed the situation. He asked about involving the police, but Max's bitter laugh confirmed what he suspected. "The police? Max scoffed. They don't care about us. We're invisible to them. Keanu's gaze hardened. Invisible or not, someone needed to take a stand. And as he looked at Andy, his resolve solidified. The thugs thought they could prey on the powerless without consequence. But tonight, they had unknowingly crossed the wrong man. To them, we're just a nuisance, a problem to be swept under the rug. Max's words lingered, heavy with the weight of truth. Keanu felt a mix of emotions, anger at the injustice and sadness for Max's profound loss. He glanced at Andy, sitting quietly beside him, and felt a renewed sense of gratitude for the puppy's unwavering presence. I'm truly sorry, Max, Keanu said, his voice steady but full of empathy. Is there anything I could do to help? Max shook his head, offering a faint smile. You being here listening, that's more than most people would ever do. You're a good man, Keanu. As the dim lights of the subway station cast long shadows across the concrete, Keanu found himself reflecting on Max's words. The underground world of the homeless was far more dangerous and complex than he'd realized. Button's tragic fate was a harsh reminder of the vulnerability faced by those on the fringes of society and the cruelty lurking in the shadows of the city he called home. The silence between them was broken when Max's gaze shifted to Andy, who had remained patiently by Keanu's side. For a brief moment, grief gave way to curiosity. Is this your puppy? Max asked, his voice softening as he gestured toward the beagle. Keanu smiled faintly. Not exactly, he replied. Andy's just a temporary companion for a film role. He belongs to a trainer who works with animal actors. Max nodded, his expression a bittersweet mix of joy and sorrow. As he reached out to pat Andy's head, the beagle leaned into his touch, wagging his tail warmly. Sweet little guy, Max said, his voice tinged with longing. You can tell a lot about a dog in just a few moments. This one's got a good heart. Keanu watched the interaction, seeing a flicker of the Max he had come to know before tragedy struck. It was a reminder of the healing power animals could bring, even in the darkest of times. As Keanu stood to leave, Max's expression grew serious again, concern evident in his tone. Keanu, he said, his voice low and urgent, be careful, especially at this hour. The station, it's not safe. Those guys, they're always looking for easy targets. The weight of Max's warning was not lost. Keanu, he nodded, appreciating the advice. Thanks for the heads up, Max. I'll stay alert. As they exchanged goodbyes, Max's voice softened once more. You know, you're the only person who's spoken to me today. Talking about Button, it helped, even if just a little. Thank you for that. Keanu felt a pang of sorrow at the reminder of Max's isolation. I'll be back tomorrow, Max. Take care of yourself. Okay. Max nodded, though his eyes darted nervously around the station. You too, Keanu. Be watchful. With a final nod, Keanu and Andy made their way toward Platform 1, Max's warning echoing in his mind. The station felt unervingly quiet now, the sound of their footsteps reverberating against the cold tile walls. Keanu stopped briefly at a nearby kiosk to buy a coffee, more out of habit than desire, before settling onto a bench to wait for his train. Sipping the bitter brew, he spoke softly to Andy, whose presence felt like an anchor in the eerie stillness. Quite a night, huh, buddy? The tranquility was abruptly shattered by the sound of heavy boots scuffing against the concrete floor. Keanu's eyes snapped up to see three men approaching. Their swagger, an aggressive demeanor, immediately set off alarm bells in his mind. Max's warning rang clear as he watched them close the distance. Two of the men carried baseball bats, swinging them with casual menace. The smell of alcohol wafted toward him as they closed in, their eyes fixed on him with predatory intent. Keanu's grip on Andy's leash tightened. His calm exterior belied the surge of awareness running through him. These men didn't realize who they were dealing with, but they were about to find out. Keanu's heart pounded as he watched Andy dart toward the thugs, his small frame fearless, but no match for their cruelty. The sight of the innocent puppy, his companion and source of comfort, ignited a fire within him. The thugs, now laughing cruelly, turned their attention to the barking beagle. Look at this mutt, Bowie sneered, lifting his boot, as if to intimidate the puppy. Keanu's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Don't you dare." The commanding tone gave the thugs pause, but only briefly. "Oh, you think you're some kind of hero?" Will taunted, gripping the necklace tighter. "What are you going to do about it?" Keanu straightened, his hands clenching into fists. The standoff had reached its breaking point, and the air was electric with the unspoken promise of what was to come. The man who had tried reasoning, who had pleaded for peace, was no longer present. In his place stood someone entirely different. Someone who had spent years perfecting the art of control, strength, and precision. "Last chance," Keanu said, his voice quiet but laced with steel. "Give me the necklace and leave. Now!" Connie laughed, hefting the bat onto his shoulder. "And what if we don't?" The answer came faster than they could react. Keanu moved like lightning, his foot sweeping Bowie's leg out from under him. The thug hit the ground hard, the chain slipping from his grasp. Before Connie could raise the bat, Keanu closed the distance, disarming him with a fluid motion and sending the bat clattering across the platform. Will lunged, swinging wildly, but Keanu anticipated the move, sidestepping and delivering a precise elbow to the man's ribs. The impact sent Will staggering, clutching his side in pain. Andy barked from a safe distance now, his small frame vibrating with energy as he watched his owner systematically dismantle the threat. The chaos unfolded in mere moments, leaving the thugs sprawled on the ground, groaning and disoriented. Keanu knelt to pick up the necklace, his hands steady as he examined it for damage. Satisfied, he slipped it back around his neck and turned his attention to the trembling thugs. "Listen carefully," he said, his tone icy. "You don't own this place, and you don't terrorize the people here anymore. If I hear you've hurt anyone else, or any other dog, you'll wish we never met." The thugs scrambled to their feet, limping away without another word, their bravado shattered. Keanu turned to Andy, who wagged his tail enthusiastically, seemingly unfazed by the ordeal. Scooping the puppy into his arms, Keanu cradled him protectively. "You're okay now, buddy," he murmured, his voice soft once more. As the train pulled into the station, Keanu boarded, the adrenaline still coursing through him. He took a seat, Andy curled up beside him, and allowed himself a deep breath. The platform, now quiet again, felt like a different world entirely. A reminder of the unseen struggles that lurked beneath the city's surface. For Keanu Reeves, it wasn't just about standing up to the thugs or protecting Andy. It was about doing what was right, no matter the cost, and showing that even in the darkest corners, compassion and strength could prevail. Keanu's expression hardened, his frustration boiling just beneath the surface. He didn't have time for the officer's sudden change of tone or the awkward fan encounter. Every second wasted was a second closer to Andy being lost forever. He drew a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm, and fixed his gaze on the officers. "Listen," Keanu said firmly, his voice steady and commanding. "I don't care about your change in attitude or your excuses. A dog's life is at stake. These men are dangerous, and they're getting away. I need your help. Now!" The officers exchanged uneasy glances, the fans' phones still recording them from a distance. They knew ignoring the situation any further could backfire, especially with Keanu Reeves involved. Finally, the taller officer sighed. "All right, Mr. Reeves, we'll help. Do you have any idea where they might have gone?" Keanu shook his head. "They split up in the tunnels. One of them had Andy, a small beagle puppy. They can't have gone far." The shorter officer grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 42. We need backup in the subway system. Possible robbery and animal kidnapping in progress. Suspects are 3 males, mid-20s to early 30s, last seen near the southbound platform." As the officers began organizing a response, Keanu took a moment to refocus. He couldn't rely solely on them. His instincts told him the thugs were likely heading to a place they felt secure, somewhere dark and out of sight, where no one would question their presence. The maze-like nature of the subway worked to their advantage, but it also meant there were limited exits. Keanu turned to the fan, who was still recording. "Hey," he said gently, "can you help me? Post this on social media. Describe Andy and what happened. The more people looking, the better. The fan nodded enthusiastically, already typing into her phone. Within moments, her post went live, describing the stolen puppy and tagging Keanu's name. Within minutes, it began to spread, people commenting and offering to keep an eye out. Keanu didn't wait to see the results. He turned back to the officers, now joined by a couple of transit security guards. "We need to move," he urged. "They won't stick around." The group split up to cover more ground, Keanu heading down one of the less traveled tunnels. The dim, flickering lights and echoing footsteps created an eerie atmosphere. But he pressed on, calling softly for Andy. "Andy! Andy, come here, buddy!" His voice echoed, but there was no response. As he rounded a corner, he heard faint voices ahead. His heart leapt. Could it be them? Keanu slowed his pace, moving quietly, his eyes scanning the darkness. The voices grew louder, more distinct. It was them. He could hear Bowie's gruff tone, followed by the unmistakable whimper of Andy. Keanu clenched his fists, his adrenaline surging. He wasn't about to let them escape again. Ducking behind a pillar, he pulled out his phone and texted one of the officers his location. Then, he took a deep breath, preparing himself. The thugs might outnumber him, but they wouldn't outmatch his resolve. With steely determination, Keanu stepped out of the shadows. "That's far enough," he called, his voice cutting through the tense air. "Let him go." The thugs froze, startled by his sudden appearance. Bowie sneered, stepping forward with Andy still in his grip. "You've got guts showing up here alone, but guts won't save you." Keanu's expression didn't falter. "Neither will running. The police are on their way, and the whole city knows what you've done. It's over." The thugs exchanged nervous glances, realizing their situation was rapidly unraveling. But Bowie, desperate to maintain control, raised his fist as if to strike Andy. That was the last straw. Keanu surged forward, his movements swift and precise, catching the thugs off guard. With a calculated kick, he knocked Bowie off balance, forcing him to release Andy, who scrambled to safety. The other two lunged at him, but Keanu's years of martial arts training kicked in, turning the fight into a blur of defensive strikes and takedowns.